Hey everybody, welcome to Big Valley Living. I'm Michelle, and today I am bringing one of my favorite jelly recipes to you, but I'm going to show you how to do this with timers. What can you say? I'm going to show you how to do this without having to invest a lot of extra money in specialized equipment. So I'm going to use a pan that we have around the house to can some pomegranate jelly for you. And instead of going through the entire process of picking and cleaning and everything else that goes along with creating a clear juice, I'm going to show you how to make it with 100% real pomegranate juice from the store. So this is an easy recipe if you're a new canner. I want to make this as comfortable as possible and to show you safe canning practices. So before we get too far into this, I would like to thank Tony at Kettle Kitchen and Blue at Blue's Self-Reliance for hosting this collaboration. The collaboration name is, or look for this hashtag if you will, hashtag Jam It Up June 2.0. Look for that hashtag on the other collaborators' videos, please, and watch for the logo to make sure that when you make a nice comment on each one of the videos that you watch, you're entered into a drawing that will be taking place on July 2nd at 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time. I'm going to go ahead and go through all of the tools that you're going to need, and I'm going to also show you just a couple of alternatives. This is largely meant for a new canner or somebody who is just looking for a way to get their feet wet and learn how to do it the right way. Always say yes to safe canning. Make sure that you have all the ingredients on hand before you get into anything else, okay? Because there's nothing worse than being ready to can and then realizing you don't have enough sugar, you don't have pectin, you don't have juice, whatever it is that you need. So this is a very simple recipe. I need 3.5 cups of 100% juice. So I'm using 100% pomegranate juice. Then this particular recipe comes from the MCP company, okay? Now it's important to know that if a recipe is developed by a certain company and they call for like a powdered pectin or a liquid pectin, use what it calls for. It's very important that you do that because that is the safe recipe. You need to use safe, tested recipes and methods, please. And then the other thing I need here, I know it's a lot, is 5 cups of granulated sugar. So I've already measured that out. I know I have all my ingredients. One other ingredient for this particular recipe to keep the foam down is a 1/4 teaspoon of butter. And I will use that only if needed, although we generally do use it. Let's talk pans. You're gonna need 2 pans. One pan is going to be used for the actual canning process. You're also going to be sterilizing your jars in that very same pan with the very same water that you can with. We have a 12-quart stock pot here at our house. It has a nice tight-fitting lid. And then we also have this little steamer basket right here, okay? And it fits in there nicely. It's great if you want a lot of cauliflower or broccoli at the same time, I'll tell you that. So you need a tall enough pot to cover your jars by at least 1.5 to 2 inches of water over the top, okay? So I would test your pan before you settle on which one you're going to use. If you do not have a tall stock pot, you can pick up a small canner like this for small batches. Probably at an estate sale, yard sale, Ace Hardware for like maybe $20. And note that this has a little insert in the bottom. Never put your jars directly on the bottom of a pan because they can break and it's just not good. So do not put any jar on the bottom of a pan without something between the jar and the pan that's touching the burner of your stove. Okay, the other pan that you definitely need is going to be cooking the jelly itself. This particular pan is a 7-quart stock pot. It's kind of small. However, I want you to notice that it's about 8 to, I guess that's about 8 inches tall. You could use a smaller pan, like less deep, but hot liquid with sugar in it, if it splatters up on you, and it very well may do that, trust me, you will forever use a taller pan, okay? So these two are essential pans for your canning when you're canning jelly. Now this little guy, I'm just going to put some boiling water in it, or some hot water, after I've cleaned my flats, which are the canning lids. This is a good opportunity to do a little shout out. ForJars is actually sponsoring this entire collaboration. Those tools are imperative. I cleaned everything with hot soapy water before starting this. You're gonna need a funnel, and you're gonna need a ladle of some sort. I like to use this magnetic tool to pick up the lids when I'm getting ready to put them on the jars. I'm also gonna clean this off before we start. This is a jar lifter, and you'll see how that works in a little while. These are somewhere between $10 and $20. I just saw one at Walmart the other day, and I think it was like $12. You can also get a beginner's kit, which will have it'll have this, it'll have the magnetic tool, and more than likely it will also contain a funnel and what is lovingly referred to from mouse toes as a Pokie Joe, and it's also used as a measuring tool. So I'll show you guys how to use this when we get to it. Oh, I just accidentally fill our sink with hot soapy water, and because I'm going to be putting my lids and rings, or my rings, pardon me, on this little guy, I'm just going to give it a quick wash, just in case it picked up any dust or anything while it was sitting around. Let's start with our rings. You can use rings over and over and over. This is a ring, okay? But you cannot use a lid, a flat lid, any more than one time for safe canning. Over time, these can get kind of rusty out here, and that's okay because these are not going to be touching your food, okay? Now, once they get to a point where maybe you're not comfortable with it, go ahead and make a craft project out of it, or just toss it in the trash or recycle. Okay, so I need 7 lids because I want to make sure that I have enough. A little tip for you, if they're stuck together when they come out of the box, just set them in the hot soapy water for a minute and they'll all come apart. Now I'm going to show you how to wash your jar and check for any imperfections, cracks, or anything like that. Even if you get a jar, a brand new jar from a box, those jars can be cracked. They could get damaged at any point after they got packaged and shipped. So always check whether it's a brand new jar, which you're still going to clean, or a jar that you've had in your cabinet for years and years. When you've washed your jar, or while you're washing it, I want you to do this. Go around the edge. First, visually inspect it, because if you see a chip, then that baby goes out, okay? Just goes out to the recycle, let it go. You don't need that in your life. But once you've determined that everything's clean, you have no cracks here, you can sometimes see a seam. That's part of the manufacturing process. That's okay. A crack is not. Okay? So this jar is good. So I have my canning pot over here, right next to, I have a double sink, so yay on me. Right next to the sink that I'm cleaning everything in. I'm going to take the inspected clean jars and I'm going to go ahead and put them in this hot water. And I hope you saw that, okay? Make sure that it's filled with water. It's ready to go. Now I'm going to clean the rest of the jars And I'm going to put them in that hot water, and then we're going to put them on the stove to sterilize. There's a good chance that I might have a little less or a little bit more. So I like to get this, now these are half-pint jars right here. They each hold 1 cup. This is a 1/4 pint, so it holds 4 ounces. Sometimes we only have enough to fill one of these and not a whole half-pint. So I'm going to go ahead and have one of these ready and sterilized just in case, just so we can maximize everything that we are going to work so hard to can. Don't forget to clean those utensils. So these are now very well sterilized. I've had them simmering now for about 20 minutes, but I did set the timer for 10. I just wanted to finish my dinner. Okay, so I'm going to move this over to keep warm so that we can get down to business and make this jelly. Yeah! One of the biggest favors you can do for yourself before you start canning is to, or actually before you start getting your ingredients ready, is to set up your workstation, okay, where you're going to be doing the actual canning. Now you see right here, I've got a kettle of really hot water, and I'm just going to put that, at this point, I'm going to put this over my flats, my lids, to make sure that I activate basically the gum, okay, around the edges of the flats. So that's going to stay plenty warm until we're ready to use it, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and set these kind of back a little bit. Whenever you're doing jelly, especially anything with sugar or ingredients that could be sticky or have some starch or something in them, get yourself a little bit of vinegar. This is white vinegar, and pour some into a small bowl. Have your paper towels handy. A couple of other things that you want to make sure that you have handy. A canning mat. I use this one. It was super cheap, but I can bleach the heck out of it, okay? And it's going to get messy, so that's why I have it out here. This is going to be for the canning itself. Once that's done, I'm going to need a place to remove my jars from the water bath. And at that point, I'm going to move this because it's going to be sticky, and I'm just going to put a mat on the counter. Always put something with a thicker material, quilted material. A towel is just fine. A terry cloth kitchen towel will work just great. Because if you put your hot jar onto your relatively cool countertop, you could very well have thermal shock, and thermal shock means that your jar is going to crack. I like to call this my resting jar, okay? So I hope I'm not really paying attention here. Okay, so I just take myself like a pint jar, okay? And then I put my clean funnel in it so that when I'm going from jar to jar, I'm not too worried about you know, having to mess around with any jelly or anything like that. So I always do that. Now I'm going to get all of my tools that I've already washed, and they're dry now. And I'm going to lay these out to the side. It's not going to be perfect, but my counters are clean, by the way. And so we have everything ready. One more thing I'm going to do is put out, let's see, how am I going to go? I think I'm going to go from here, let's see, let me show you. I'm probably going to put the pot with the jelly right here. And then I want to make sure that I have my funnel nearby. One of the last things that the next thing that we would end up doing would be to, you know, put our lid after we clean everything, okay? So here's, in order, here's what works best for me. Ooh, that is one heck of a strong magnet. All right, so now we're gonna go make the jelly. Make sure that you have yourself a handy dandy timer. You can use your phone, whatever you want, but make sure that it is very accurate and that you have it ready. So when we get to a hard boil, we're going to be going for 2 minutes. So I already have my timer ready to go for that because I just want to be ready to make sure that everything is done according to the instructions. So we're going to add our 3½ cups of juice. This is cold, by the way, everything's cold. Then we're gonna add 1 pouch of MCP Pectin. Actually, MCP means modified citrus pectin, so I guess I don't need to say pectin, do I? I like to have a tool like this that has a hole in the middle when I'm making jelly, because it's going to allow more jelly to flow through when you're stirring it. All right, so I have turned this on to 9 on my electric stove because we need to get it to heat up. Remember, we have our jars right over here, staying warm in the water, and that is going to be our water bath canner today. Okay, so I'm going to let that go for a minute and warm up. Once it comes to a rolling boil, we are going to add our 5 cups of sugar. And if you'd like to see a low sugar version of this, please drop a comment in the bottom and I will work with a different pectin that has a recipe for pomegranate jelly, and I could show you how to reduce the sugar in your jelly. I have no problem with that because nobody needs extra sugar, quite frankly. Okay, now you can see that it's kind of starting to foam up right here. This is when you're going to want to pay really close attention because we're getting ready to boil. I am going to put in a 1/4 teaspoon of the butter. I usually do it right at the end, and over the course of 25 years I've never had any adverse effects, but let's put it in here before we do the other stuff. Watch that. Boom! Is that the coolest thing ever? Everything just moves away. All the foam just moves on out. Okay, we're getting ready to boil. I'm going to stir it for a second and make sure that it is going to boil. And there you have it. Had to throw that over there. Okay, it's boiling. Now is when we take our 5 cups of sugar and we are going to dump it. We're going to dump it all at once. And we're going to keep stirring, 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 stirring. Okay, and what we need to do is make sure we don't have big lumps. Takes a little bit of maneuvering, but nothing horrible. Okay, now you can see, well, you're going to see in a minute when it boils up, okay, why we like to have a tall pan. The pans I used to use were only about like this high, and so once it started getting to a rapid boil, there was nowhere for the bubbles to go, and the sugary syrup, which is, oh you guys, so painful if it splashes on you. I cannot begin to tell you. So anyway, the deeper the pan you can get and the longer handled utensils, the better for you. Let me see if I can bring you in closer without compromising anything. Oh my goodness, look, 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 look. Once we can't stir it down, and that's where we are right now, I want you to notice that I'm stirring it, but it didn't go down like it did a moment ago, okay? So I'm going to hit my start time for my 2 minutes of timing. So I'm actually going to take 2 or 3 out because they are hot, hot, hot. And they are not going to cool down if I take 4 of them out, fill them, clean them, and put the seals or the lids on. Trust me. It is really hot. Okay. Now, okay, you can see the jars. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my funnel there. There was just the tiniest bit of foam right here. There you go. And that's really about all there was. So I'm just going to go ahead and I have a little, like a discard jar. I'm going to put it in there because that will still be good on toast tomorrow if I put that in the fridge overnight. Now see, I'm tempted to just grab the jar, but you do not want to do that. I better check my recommended Headspace. I believe it's 1/4 inch, but you always want to double check that before you fill your jars all the way. 1/4 inch Headspace. Okay. So I'm going to take this off to show you. This is not 1/4 inch. This is actually 1 inch. But 1/4 inch is going to be it'll be the very first tooth on this unit right here, okay? So as you can see, we're still quite a ways away. And actually the top ring on a jar is 1/4 inch. But I like to make sure, especially if you're new, that you know what it looks like. There we go. So we are just at that line, and I am happy with that. So what I'm going to do now, grab my paper towel, dip it in the white vinegar. I'm going to go a lot faster on the rest of them. Here, guys, here is where this little tool comes in handy. Look at that. I'm not touching it. It's wonderful. Now I want to show you, with jellies and jams and all that sugar, you need to make sure that you have a super, super clean rim on your jar, because anything between the sealing compound on your lid and the rim of your jar is going to compromise the seal and compromise the safety of your food. Don't do it. It's not worth it. So what you want to have is a clean rag after you've gone around it. Now I know it's clean, but I want to show you. Nothing. That's what you want to see. No color. And Daisy Bell is out there chasing after something outside. Okay. So I took my magnet, picked up my lid, did not touch it. I want you to know that. Okay, don't touch that compound or anything at this point. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put our seal on. And we're going to go to fingertip tight. Now, once it starts moving like that freely, that's as tight as you want it, because you need to allow for air to escape. I'm going to go ahead and set this one in, and then I'm going to get to moving pretty quickly here so I can get this going. And you can see a little bit of air already escaping in there from the jars. That's perfectly normal, and that's okay. So I'm going to put the lid back on for now. I have it on, I actually have it on 9.5. This has a 10-minute processing time. So once I see that it's boiling, I'm going to reduce my heat to make sure it stays at a gentle rolling boil, and I'm going to set my timer. I'm going to do it right now for 10 minutes, and I'll turn that on as soon as we're going. It's already starting. It's cool. We have a rolling boil here. I'm going to go ahead and turn it down to 7.5, and I'm going to start my timer for 10 minutes. And we are now officially processing this batch of pomegranate jelly made with 100% fruit juice purchased at the store. Alrighty guys, our 10 minutes is up. Turned off the heat, turned off the timer. I'm going to let it sit for about 5 minutes. Okay, when we take these out, you need to have a dedicated space where they can sit for 12 to 24 hours. I usually will go overnight, and when the work day is over the next day, you know, then that's just the perfect time to take them out. So we're going to lift our lid off away from our face, because we don't want that strong of a facial now, do we? Okay, now last bit of information. So I am using my jar lifter that you're going to see in a second. Resist all temptation to tip the jar to get the water off, okay? Either get a paper towel or just a towel that can absorb what's on top, okay? But do not tip your jars, because you can compromise all the hard work you just did and the safety of your food. Success! So if you look, all of them have sealed. I'm not going to touch them, but they're done. Okay, so now we're going to let them sit for 18 to 24 hours. After that time, tomorrow, I'm going to remove these. See, they're already loose. I want you to see that. They are only there for when you're canning, okay? So I'm going to let them sit overnight, and then I am going to remove these rings altogether and clean them. I have other videos that show you how to clean the jars when you're done and label them, so I'm not going to go through all of that. You'll see that actually in the links that I'm going to provide below for my past videos for canning jelly. So thanks a lot for watching. This has been a lot of fun. I hope it gives you the courage and the strength to give this a shot. There's nothing more gratifying than canning, and start out with something simple like jelly. At first it seems like this monumental task. Trust me, you'll gain confidence. You'll be so happy when people eat it and say, oh my gosh, you made this. And then if you want, move on to some, pressure canning and stuff. But no matter what you do, please go to the USDA canning and home preserving guidelines. I'll put all kinds of good links at the bottom in the description of this video so that you can say yes to safe canning. Thank you, Tony at Kettle Kitchen. Thank you, Blue at Blue Self-Reliance. And thank you, ForJars, for sponsoring this fun collaboration. Don't forget to go to Kettle Kitchen or Blue's Self-Reliance for the full playlist. Make sure to go watch everybody's channel if you like them. Go ahead and subscribe to them. And we'll see you on July 2nd for the live giveaway. Thank all of you for coming by to watch us can pomegranate jelly from juice and using regular kitchen utensils. If you like our channel, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you like the other channels, do the same. See you later, everybody. Be kind.